Okay, so it's 10 o'clock. So welcome everyone to Cal Poly Pomona's 17th Annual Cybersecurity and Awareness Fair. We would like to thank our sponsors for supporting this event. And I would like to give a warm welcome and introduce Dale Samsel here, who will be presenting on the topic of access control, how to utilize technology and existing infrastructure. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed your time with the events thus far. As we go through this presentation, please feel free to post your questions in the chat session. At the end, the questions will all be answered in the Q&A portion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Donovan. Appreciate that. As Donovan mentioned, my name is Dale Samsel. I'm with Assa Abloy, and I'm the Regional Campus Manager for Access Control. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share some of our solutions and technologies to use your existing infrastructure. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and advance this slide, which is not advancing. Not sure why it's not advancing, Donovan. Let me try this. Here we go. Here we go. I got it. Okay. So a little bit about Assa Abloy. As you can see, we're a global company, just under 50,000 employees and $10 billion in sales. So we're the world's largest manufacturer of anything to do with access control, door openings, whether it's mechanical, electrified, or some of the technologies that we're going to talk about today. We own over 300 companies worldwide. We hire all types of folks. If you're looking to maybe put in a resume, we have all types of positions globally with our company. 4 out of 6 years, we've been nominated with Forbes to be higher than Apple and also the Alphabet company in world's most innovative companies. And we'll get into that, why we've been nominated that, but it's a pretty interesting opportunity and privilege to be nominated higher than those companies, obviously. So just to get the juices flowing, I want to just pull this up real quick and let you see how quickly our world is evolving. So everything really revolves around technology nowadays. And so we have developed products that kind of utilize what people are using, i.e. your phones, IP networks, those types of things. So with that being said, let me jump right into what we really want to talk about today. And we're going to talk first about Wi-Fi. So we have our locks will use Wi-Fi technology 802.11. So it's pretty ubiquitous around campuses or your homes, everywhere there's Wi-Fi. And so this lock essentially communicates via that technology. So what happens is you'll put the lock on the door, you give it the IP address, whether it's static or DHCP, and point it towards the software through the network, and you're up and running. So there's no extra infrastructure that's needed on the Wi-Fi locks. That's a big deal because lots of other manufacturers don't have true native architecture in this fashion. So the Wi-Fi lock communicates when it's told to. So in other words, it wakes up on a schedule. The schedule can be as many times as you want, but that will affect the battery life. So as that lock wakes up, it does the handshake through the encryption, and it will communicate anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds is about as long as it's going to be on the network, and then it goes back to sleep. The only time that lock is going to wake up is if you have a checkbox on the alarms, and that's real-time alarms. So for example, if someone was to break in that door, force the door open, and I've got that checkbox to wake up and tell me that, it'll wake up communicate that information. It can send a text or an email to the proper folks, campus safety, whoever that needs to go to come let them check that opening out. During its normal communication times, as I mentioned earlier, when it does communicate, it's sending about a 5 to 10K packet of information. So very, very minimal impact on a network. It also, I guess, is for the door hardware people out there, if there are any, it comes in a number of flavors, meaning that it'll fit on whether it's a mortise lock, a cylindrical, or an exit device. It's got many different physical platforms that it can go on. So it's 128 encryption, AES encryption. It also can, the protocols for the security on that is WPX. So we can adjust that as needed. It transmits in a 2.4 gigahertz fashion. Today, as you're probably aware, there is the 5 gig out there, but that requires a lot more WAPs and a lot tighter in the sense that they don't cover as much. So from a company standpoint, we see that 2.4 gig is going to be prevalent for many years to come, as there's a bunch of other products that use that 2.4. So lots of times for 5G, you're really streaming a lot, whereas this really doesn't require that. So let's jump into the other technology, what we call our IP platform. We're going to skip past Apereo right now and go to PoE. We'll come back to Apereo. So the PoE technology is 802.3. It's data and power over that Ethernet cable to the lock. So the big difference here with this type of solution and utilizing your existing building network is that you've got to have a raceway through that door. And the raceway essentially is just a path for that Cat6, Cat5 cable to go from the hinge side of the door to the lock. So on a retrofit application where it's an existing building, it's existing doors, it can be done, but it's a little bit more difficult, more costly. So where we would see a lot of this is on new construction, where you can order the doors pre-drilled. You can order the frame already prepped, and it's much easier from the install perspective. But once again, this Ethernet cable is data and power. So it gives you the ability to remotely lock down. So if there's an incident, you can lock down from a remote location. You don't have to be there in person. Whereas the Wi-Fi lock is only available to do local lockdown, because the lock is what initiates communication. You can't initiate communication from the head end or the software platform. So that lock gives you, the PoE lock gives you the real-time lockdown capabilities. It also reduces on your energy consumption. So I've got a slide in here that we'll get to, but it shows you the architecture of a traditional hardwired door. So I'm sure a lot of you, when you go into buildings, you'll see the reader on the wall that you present your credential to. We'll show you the architecture of that. But so in comparison to the PoE versus your traditional architecture, there's a huge cost savings with power consumption. We've got universities that have done case studies that are saving tens of thousands of dollars every year on energy consumption, because PoE uses so much less energy. So let me see how we're doing on time here. Okay. So once again, no access control panel, nothing else in the ceiling. This PoE will plug into your PoE switch. We can also use injectors on this as well. And it's a way to use your existing infrastructure. In other words, reduce your overhead to put access control on more doors. And that really what all these three technologies does is make it a lower cost point for the end user, so we can put more access control on more doors with the same budget numbers. All right, let's shift gears to the Apereo. So Apereo uses Zigbee Z-Wave technology, which is 802.15.4. So it's still wireless. You can see these blue lines here. That's just indicating that that's a wireless signal. So no wires running to the door. Communicates to what we call a hub. Other manufacturers have different terminology for it, but it's essentially the same. And this is also using 2.4 gig technology to communicate. It goes to that hub, and then from that hub, I should say the hub can come in different flavors, meaning that we have an IP hub that would just plug into a switch. We have a hub that uses RS-485 wiring technology. So that's a pretty traditional technology that's used, that has been used and probably will be used. And then we also have a Wiegand hub that just speaks Wiegand. Won't get too far in the weeds in that, but so different flavors of hubs to do that. You can see that there's many different devices that talks to that one hub. So most of the manufacturers have 1 to 8, meaning one hub for 8 devices. The IP hub is also capable of 1 hub per 64 devices within a specified distance. So for example, if it gets outside that range, you're gonna add another hub. Say for example, it's a mailroom where we're using our cabinet locks. We could have 64 of those cabinet locks talking to that one hub, which makes it a lot easier for the install and also for the cost. So let me advance the slide here. So this is just kind of a side-by-side. And for those of you that aren't as familiar with access control, on the right, you'll see that there's an access control panel. That's what the Wi-Fi lock and the PoE lock eliminate. They also eliminate all that wiring that goes to that. We do utilize that with our Imperial product, but that's the game changer for utilizing existing building infrastructure with our Wi-Fi and PoE lock, is that we don't have to have that added infrastructure. So there's many existing buildings where this is a huge added expense, and trying to pull wires into a building that doesn't have them. Maybe you don't have a drop ceiling, maybe it's what we call a hard lid. So you have to run wires on the surface. There's just a lot of advantages to our Wi-Fi product. And then the Imperial obviously can use wireless between the door and the hub. So here's where I wanted to show you the traditional online hardware, where this has been going on for years and years. So you can see all of those components around the door. You can see the door controller, you can see the access control panel. So all those things have to be wired in. Traditionally, what we'd call an integrator would charge 8 hours of labor to do this. And they're anywhere from $100 to $200 an hour for labor to charge this. And so this becomes a very expensive solution. And that's why a lot of end users don't have a ton of access control because of the expense. We will quote them for a budget number, $3,000 to $5,000 for a traditional hardwired door like you're seeing here. Whereas the Wi-Fi lock would be down in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. So back to Apereo. So when I say 1 device to 64, that's where you have these cabinet locks. That's where you have a wireless reader. So for example, you want to put a reader out on a bollard out in front of a building. And this makes it so you don't have to do any trenching to run wires, which is a huge expense. That alone could be $10,000 to $15,000 to put wiring in out to that bollard, whereas you can take this reader, attach it to that, point it towards the hub, and away you go. You'll see to the right of that, the cabinet server. So put this on the cabinet server. Now you can know who's getting into each and every cabinet, not just who's going into the server room. All right. So historically, some of you may have used these. I've used pretty much all of them. We used to, this was everyday life. I mean, all these products that you see on the screen made your life easier, but things have changed in the last few years. And where have they changed to? They've changed to the phone, right? So everything is going in the phone. So this not only gives you that ability to consolidate all these things that makes your life easier, we also have access control going into the phone. So when I say that, I mean a mobile credential. So some of you may be aware that there's technology out there called NFC and BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. Those are two types of mobile credentials that you can use to access those locks that we just talked about. And there's a big push for that. There was some holdback because Apple would only allow their wallet to be used for Apple Pay, but that's changed in the last 3 years. So there's a number of different things. We don't have enough time to go into it, but just be aware that this really is the future for access control, mobile credentials, et cetera, going into your wallet. And with that being said, I will open it up. I know we're maybe a little bit early, but any questions? So while there's a pause, I'll talk a little bit more then about the mobile side of things. So it's available with Apple. It's also available with the Android. There is some requirements to use those portions of that NFC wallet. With BLE, there is the capability to have a farther read range. So you can be up to 30 feet with BLE and open a door if it's a hardwired door. So there's a lot of new technology that's right at the tip of the iceberg in regards to mobile credentials. It's kind of like I would say back in my day, VHS and beta, or maybe it's Blu-ray and the other one. To your point, right? We're going to see which technology wins out, but it can go either way right now. So the nice thing about our products is that it comes with both BLE and NFC to ensure that you are prepared and ready for your existing infrastructure, because you got to put locks on your door today. You may not use that mobile credential for a year or two, but it's ready in there for you to use when you need it. I'm not hearing anything, Donovan, if you're talking.
Oh, no, I was just kind of giving time just in case anybody came up with any questions or anything before I closed out the session, or if you had anything else you wanted to say.
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity, like I mentioned to begin with. If any of you are looking for an opportunity with a great company, assaabloy.com. They've got a website where you can go and look at all the positions that's available, et cetera. But appreciate your time and your attendance, and hopefully this was helpful.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dale, for being here with us to speak, and thank you everybody for attending. I feel like we all could have taken at least a little bit of something away from that. It was really informative. Thank you. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you find answers to them. And please don't forget to check out our water bottle and laptop sticker contest, as we're giving away a no starch press $20 ebook voucher. Thank you again, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.